TII Item 477, January 28th, 2019, iOS 12.1.3 and 12.2 Beta 1.
Welcome to Today in iPhone.
I like it a lot.
Today in iPhone.
Hey, Google!
Oh, yeah.
My beautiful iPhone, which I never have out of my hand and that I do everything with and has become an extension of who I am.
Today's episode is brought to you by Eero. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacons package and 1 year Eero Plus, please visit Eero.com/TII and to checkout enter promo code TII. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob, and you are listening to the Today in iOS podcast. First up, I want to thank Jeff for sending in the music here in the background. Jeff wrote, "Hi, Rob. I made this song, Polarize, using the GarageBand app on my iPhone. For free downloads and more music, follow me at JeffJ6 on Twitter. Regards, Jeff J." Well, thanks, Jeff, for the music. And folks, I'll put the full song at the end of this episode. Also want to thank Talman for sending in the artwork for today's show. Talman wrote the following. "Hi, Rob. I took this picture on my iPhone and edited it with the Photos markup feature in iOS. Regards, Talman Murphy Jr." Thanks, Talman, for sending this in. And folks, you can see this artwork in the free TII app via the bonus button for episode 477, or at Instagram.com/TodayInIOS, and also at Facebook.com/TodayInIOS. If you have some artwork and or music that you have created on your iOS device that you would like to share with the audience, please email it to me at todayinios@gmail.com. Please make sure to include which app or apps you used to create said artwork and or music. Happy New Year, good to be back. Apple had a few releases for iOS 12.1.3 since the last episode. There was iOS 12.1.3 Beta 2 on December 19th, Beta 3 on January 7th, Beta 4 on January 10th, and then the Goldmaster on January 22nd. Let's go right to the Goldmaster and to the question of should you release the hounds? Well, that depends if your hounds are a bright yellow color, as in Sprint, because Sprint has the following warning that they gave out on Twitter on January 23rd. Quote, "Some Sprint customers with iPhone 10, iPhone XS, and iPhone XR are experiencing service issues. Our teams are working to resolve the issue as quickly as possible," unquote. So if Sprint is your carrier, definitely hold off on releasing the hounds because that issue that they're talking about, as is no service. Yeah, kind of a big issue. This is also a double dot update. It's mostly about bug fixes. I think it's only for bug fixes or intended to be for fixing bugs. Clearly, it introduced some for Sprint users. Some of the bugs it did squash are issues with the Messages app that could impact scrolling through photos. And it fixed a bug where you might have had audio distortion when using an external audio input device on the iPad Pro 2018. It also reportedly fixed issues with the iPhone XR, XS, and XS Max disconnecting from certain CarPlay systems. There are other minor bug fixes as well. So long or short, for iOS 12.1.3, if you're on Sprint, do not release the hounds. If you're an iPad Pro 2018, yes, release the hounds. All others, if things are working well for you, best to wait on this update a little bit longer. I just don't see any compelling reason to update now for this unless you are an iPad Pro 2018 user. On January 22nd, Apple also released a few other Goldmaster double dot updates, watchOS 5.1.3 and tvOS 12.1.2. If you do update to iOS 12.1.3, then look at updating to these as well. But once more, they are double dot updates, so more just about bug fixes and not any new features. On January 24th, Apple released a few new betas, and these are single dot updates, which means new features. Those released to devs are iOS 12.2 Beta 1, watchOS 5.2 Beta 1, and tvOS 12.2 Beta 1. Starting with iOS 12.2, the new features for this are an update to downtime, which is part of screen time, now allows you to customize downtime for each specific day of the week. So each day you can have a different start and stop time for downtime. Now you can pick it to start downtime, say, at 6 p.m. on Sunday and end at 7 a.m. on Monday, but then for Monday, start at 10 p.m. and end at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, and so on. There is code in iOS 12.2 that shows updates for Apple News, including expanding it to Canada. There is also improved TV remote in the control center, but there is warnings from Apple that this beta may cause issues with users being unable to authenticate Apple Pay after selecting a card. Plus, there's some other bugs they warned about. As always, remember, beta equals bugs, and the first beta has the most bugs. Do not upgrade to iOS 12.2 Beta 1 on your main device. But I think the biggest news of iOS 12.2 Beta 1 are not what features it added or bugs, but rather what folks found in the code, indicating there will be 4 new iPad models and a long overdue upgrade for the iPod Touch. And also some evidence in there of AirPods 2 with Hey Siri support. It is looking very likely there will be an Apple event in March timeframe. That would be right about when 12.2 would come out, at which time AirPods 2 and Apple's PowerPad could be introduced alongside with an updated iPod Touch per new iPads. I'm a little less confident in those being introduced in March, but it's possible, especially if Apple is upgrading the iPad mini. And recently, the iPhone SE, for a short period of time, was back in the Apple Store in the clearance section. It's gone now, but maybe, just maybe, Apple will introduce the iPhone SE 2. But likely that is just my wife channeling her wants and desires through my subconscious. And FYI, when they were back in the store, the SEs, that is, they were just $249 for the 32 gig and $299 for the 128 gig. No matter what, I think March could be a good month for new and renewed products. And some good news is something Apple is really in need of these days. I mentioned earlier that Apple also released watchOS 5.2 Beta 1 and tvOS 12.2 Beta 1, and both have one thing in common. No one seems to know what, if any, new features have been added to them. Right now, all the posts say, check back for updates. I haven't seen anything with them in any way, shape, or form. And this is 3 days later, no updates on any of those posts. So hopefully, more on that in the future. I would expect Beta 2 for these OSs to drop sometime on or before February 8th. You know those reports about some bent 2018 iPad Pros? Yeah. Apple said, all's good. That is just how they're built and should not get any worse over time. Huh? Apple said the bend is the result of the cooling process with regards to the iPad Pro's metal and plastic components during manufacturing, and the bend is within Apple's specs. They have specs for a bend? But that said, it seems if you are annoyed that your new $1,900 top-of-the-line iPad Pro is bent, you can ask for a replacement, assuming you ask right when you get it. When I received my new iPhone XS Max, it had some slight scratches on the screen. I brought it right to the Apple Store and they replaced it immediately. So if you have an Apple Store near where you live, then you should be good. It is those that have to travel hundreds and hundreds of miles to get to their local Apple Store that I think this whole thing is a kind of a annoyance, to say the least. I know I would be annoyed if I just bought a $1,900 iPad Pro and it was bent. The bend seems to be more common in the LTE version, which means those that paid more are likely getting a unit with a little bend, but one within Apple's bend spec limits. Of course, all the reports about possible bending did not, according to Thinkum, which is some company that does some surveys, affect sales. At least not at Best Buy stores, at least through December 23rd, which is when the data ends that they presented. Maybe there was something happening a little after the 23rd that might, influence sales of new electronic devices. What could that have been? What goes on around December 23rd, a couple days after? Sadly, we will now need to rely on third parties for data on any Apple product sales, as Apple no longer reports them. But at least from initial data up until the 23rd of December, sales seem to be brisk. Apple reported at the end of 2018 that 75% of all iOS devices were running iOS 12, 17% were on iOS 11, and 8% were on earlier versions. And this is for all iOS devices out there that are still running. To compare that to Android, well, you can't. Google stopped updating their numbers back in October. At that time, just 21.5% were running on Oreo. That's the version released in August 2017, 14 months earlier. If Google updates in the future, we can do a comparison, but it is likely well below 10% on Pi. Pi is the 9th version of Android. For Christmas, there were a few different items purchased that were iOS related in our household. One was a wireless charger stand for the Apple Watch and iPhone. It has one area for the iPhone, which is a 7.5 watt charger, wireless. And then the other area rotates up to 90 degrees for the Apple Watch. So this way, if you have like a band that's a looped band, you can rotate it up and still charge it. You don't have to undo that loop. And that is a 2-watt charger. This was purchased for my youngest son who has received my iPhone 10. I passed that down to him when I upgraded. And he has the original Apple Watch, so it works really well with both. This allows him to wirelessly charge both on one charging pad. It's from a company called AHNR, whom I had not heard of before. But hey, it was only $27. And while it will not charge the AirPods like Apple's Air Power Pad is supposed to, it does have two big advantages. One, it is over $100 cheaper. And two, it is actually, available. Overall, we have been very happy with this item. Link in the show notes for this. The other item that we purchased at Christmas time that I was happy with was the Eero mesh network that I gave my parents for Christmas. I upgraded my parents' house to real Wi-Fi. Their Christmas gift was an Eero base station and 2 beacons. And for the first time ever, they have great Wi-Fi coverage everywhere in their house and outside and around their house. All the nieces and nephews that came over were so happy. More importantly, their Ring doorbell finally works as it should, with my parents being able to answer it anywhere in the house and see the video right away. And this is something I purchased for my parents, putting my money where my advertisers is, and that's Eero, E-E-R-O, and they make a Wi-Fi mesh network for your home. And as I mentioned on previous episodes, Eero offers you the fastest Wi-Fi I've ever tested. This is a second-generation Eero unit, which added a 5 gigahertz radio, and it is a mesh network just like that at office buildings, but now for your home. You only need to hardwire and connect the base station unit. The beacons you just plug into wall outlets, and they even have a nightlight, which for some reason my parents didn't want me to turn on for them. Never think about Wi-Fi again. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus, visit eero.com/TII, and at checkout, enter promo code TII. With Eero Plus, you get total network protection with the ability to block malicious and unwanted content across your entire network. You get advanced security, content blocking, and ad blocking. Eero even automatically pushes out software updates to make sure you have the latest security protection for your home network. And the units also have a new thread radio for the lower power devices like my parents' Ring doorbell and other Wi-Fi enabled IoT devices. Again, to get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus, please visit eero.com/TII, and at checkout, enter promo code TII. I said before, this is the best Wi-Fi I've ever tested or heard of. Thanks, Eero, for fixing my parents' Wi-Fi nightmare. Since the last episode, CES came and went, and Apple, while not there officially, did make some noise with a big billboard on the side of a building across from CES. The banner read, "What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone." Well played, Apple. Well played indeed. Apple kind of sort of had an announcement too at CES this year, albeit via their partners, and that is that Apple made iTunes available as an app to smart TVs from Samsung, LG, and Vizio. This means for new smart TVs from these manufacturers, 2019 TVs, the iTunes app will be available so you can rent and buy movies right from the smart TV. Samsung also said iTunes support will also be available on its lineup of 2018 smart TVs via a forthcoming firmware update. There was also an announcement of support for AirPlay 2 and HomeKit by Vizio. There will be a free update sometime in Q2 of this year for compatible TVs that will support the Smartest 3.0 Smart Test 3.0 update. This means any Vizio smart TVs that get the update, you will be able to play content directly from your iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and enable TV controls via the Home app and Siri. I have a few Vizio TVs, so it will be interesting to see if any of them support this. Per LG, they said, quote, LG's AI TV lineup in 2019 adds support for Apple AirPlay 2 and HomeKit. With AirPlay 2, users can easily play videos directly from their Apple devices, iTunes, and other video apps. Music or photos to their LG Signature OLED TV are. With Apple HomeKit support, customers will be able to control their LG TV using the Home app and or by asking Siri, unquote. But I think the best announcement I saw around the time of CES was not even at CES, and it was one really introduced originally by Michael J. Fox back in the 1980s, and that is a self-lacing sneaker. And now that is a reality via Nike's Adapt BB self-lacing shoes, which can be controlled via an iOS app. Back to the Future missed by just 3 years and a few months. They had predicted this being available in October 2015. Thanks to all that sent that one along. Oh, the sneakers will cost you just a measly $350 each. Initially, they're rolling them out for NBA players. Back on January 2nd, Tim Cook sent a letter to investors announcing something Apple has not announced since well before there was this podcast. And this podcast started back in 2007. And that was they revised their guidance down, which means the next conference call scheduled for this Tuesday, the January 29th, will be a very, very interesting call. Per the letter and why Apple is revising down their guidance, it comes to slowing sales of iPhones in China, or as Tim said in the letter, quote, lower than anticipated iPhone revenue, primarily in Greater China, accounts for all of our revenue shortfall to our guidance, and for much more than our entire year-over-year revenue decline. In fact, categories outside of the iPhone, services, Mac, iPad, wearables, home, accessories, combined to grow almost 19% year-over-year, unquote. But Tim did go on to say, quote, while Greater China and other emerging markets accounted for the vast majority of the year-over-year iPhone revenue decline, in some developed markets, iPhone upgrades also were not as strong as we thought they would be, unquote. He went on to mention the battery replacement program helped contribute to the lower iPhone upgrades. In all the negative reporting off of the letter, I think you need to also look at some of the good info. Tim said they expect to set all-time revenue records in several countries, including the U.S., Canada, Germany, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Korea, Mexico, Poland, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And Apple does expect to report an all-time record for Apple earnings per share. Tim mentioned the Apple battery replacement. So how many people like me took them up on that? Well, a whole bunch, as in 11 million iPhones had their batteries updated last year. Typically, Apple would have expected to replace around 2 million batteries, so that's 9 million more people that might not be upgrading. Although, I would imagine many did what I did. They upgraded just so they can have an extra device around as a backup that has a good battery. It's a spare that we use for watching videos and listening to music and some game playing. And if needed, it could be used as an iPhone if one of the others in the house gets dropped or broken or stolen or lost, whatever. Still, even if half of those people did not upgrade, that's around 5 million less upgrades this past year. And I'm really surprised Apple didn't see that coming. Apple was not the only one, though, reporting issues in China sales. We'll get back to that. Samsung reported the same thing a couple of days after Tim's letter. I know, shocker. Samsung copying Apple. Never saw that coming. Some out there, however, are saying it is a contraction overall globally on the top end of the smartphone market, which again, Apple did not say that. Actually, they said other markets did very well. Clearly, from all reports, there is a pullback in the China middle class and spending is declining over there. This is where, say, the iPhone SE2 might come into play more. If not for China, then definitely for India, a market that so far has been very elusive for Apple. I'm going to dip into the email bag here for an email I would like to read. Hi, Rob. It really troubles me to hear the unrelenting beating of the drum of the iPhone XR is a flop. They are not selling, yada, yada. Apple is in trouble, yada, yada. Their phones are not selling anymore, whatnot. I love what the iPhone allows me to do. And even if I don't have the other issues with the values of Android, Google says, well, not nice things to people like me. I've heard from a podcast in the blindness community, talking to someone who worked inside of Google, that they have no intentions or interest in a dedicated screen reader. Magnification with speech component is the way they want to build their accessibility. Truly well-designed accessibility for the blind is not important to them. As for the iPhone XR, I think it is a great device, and I don't think it is an overpriced device like so many people are trying to say it is. People stupidly try to make the case that you can buy an Android device for half the price that is as good. First of all, it may or may not be as good, but even if it is, those companies are not focusing their business model off of selling the hardware. People refuse to acknowledge that and cram that comparison as though it's factual. I find it really troubling that the narrative is, Apple, your phones are not worth it this year. They did build good products, but we may not get good products in the future if quality doesn't sell, is the feedback people give with their voting dollars. Regards, Jim. Well, Jim, thanks for your feedback. And do not worry, the iPhone is still selling very, very well. And Apple is still making a lot of money. The iPhone XR, for example, is doing really well, accounting for about 32% of all iPhone sales in November, at least according to a survey done by CIRP. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom reporting around Apple. No, that's an understatement, which obviously has caused the stock price to drop quite a bit from a high of over $230 a share in October to the current price, which is in the $150 to $155 range lately, at least. I think Apple's quarterly report will not do a lot to squash negativity, but it will not either likely push down the price. I think we may be stuck for some time in this $150 to $175 range. Hope I'm wrong, and Apple was just overly negative, but if that is the case and Apple keeps buying back stock, ouch, people will then ask if Apple went overly negative to drive down the price so they could buy back more shares at a lower price, says the conspiracy theorist in my head. Wouldn't that be something? Yeah. Let's see how long before we see an article written like that later on in the year saying Tim Cook released that letter to manipulate the stock price to drive it down so Apple could buy back more shares, knowing full well that they were actually doing better than their letter led on. Again, pure conspiracy theory. I don't think that's the case at all, which means this next quarterly report shouldn't do anything to cause the price to go up, but I don't think it's going to cause it to go down any more than it is either. And speaking on how the stock's going to do, CNBC had a post covering how all of the major analysts out there changed their coverage. The one with the highest previous target was Wedbush, which had a target previously of $275 a share. They cut that to $200 a share. The one with the lowest previous target was Goldman Sachs with a target of 182, which they cut to 140, which is now again the lowest current target. The highest current target is 228 from JP Morgan. Previously, they were at 266. I like JP Morgan target the most, obviously. More on the financial items on the next episode. One way Apple plans to bring back the Chinese market is by releasing the HomePod in China, which they did on Friday, January 18th. Those new to the show, there was some sarcasm in there. Still, if you are in China and were waiting with bated breath for the HomePod, your wait is over. Congrats. Don't get me wrong, I love my HomePod, but it is a super niche product at best. And speaking of the HomePod, it is getting better. Gene Munster in December 2018 tested Google Assistant on Google Home, Alexa on Amazon Echo, Siri on HomePod, and Microsoft's Cortana. They gave them 800 questions each, which were split into 5 different categories: local, commerce, navigation, information, and commands. In December of 2017, when they did these same tests, Siri on HomePod scored a success rate of just 52.3%. This past December, it was up to 74%. That was enough to move it past both Cortana and Alexa, but not enough to catch Google Assistant, which is at 87.9%. There's always December 2019 if Apple gives the HomePod even more updates. Interestingly, they did not have a category for entertainment, which is what I use my HomePod for mostly. Come to think of it, who uses their HomePod for navigation? 3 times last year, I had to leave product at the checkout line at Target. Why? Because I forgot my credit card at home. Instead of having it in my folio case where it's supposed to be, I had, for some reason, taken it out. Maybe I was buying something online, whatever the cases were. At other stores like Walgreens, there was no issue. I just used my Apple Watch or my iPhone to pay, and I'm done. But not Target. However, word is coming from Apple that soon that'll all be changing, and has started to change. Target and Hy-Vee, which I both shop at, Taco Bell, Speedway, and Jack in the Box, which I don't, will soon all support Apple Pay. I'm so glad to hear about Target. It's about time. This means 74 of the top 100 merchants in the U.S. and 65% of all retail locations in the U.S. will support Apple Pay. Apple Pay is rolling out now in Target stores and will be available in all 1,800 plus locations in the U.S. in the next few weeks. Apple Pay is now available at all 245 Hy-Vee stores, inside the store at all Speedways, 3,000 locations there, and will roll out to 7,000 Taco Bells and 2,200 Jack in the Box locations in the next few months. I think this really gets to where almost all of my shopping now is covered by Apple Pay. Yay! Apple just recently introduced smart battery cases for the iPhone XS, XS Max, and XR. And shockingly, they're all the same price. They're all $129. Quote, the smart battery case is compatible with QI certified chargers. You can charge your iPhone and battery case simultaneously, unquote. Interestingly, when first put up on Apple's website, when this first came out, the description mentioned being compatible with the AirPower wireless charging mat. And that wording is no longer up on Apple's site.
Hello, this is Justin from Pennsylvania. I wanted to leave a quick review of the new Apple Smart Battery Case. I got the one for the XS. I have an iPhone 10, so I know there was some controversy at the beginning whether it would fit. It fits my phone just fine. There is a slight extra little bit of room around the camera, but other than letting a little extra dust in, it's not really going to make that big of a difference. And the speaker and microphone holes at the bottom are slightly different, but I haven't noticed any distortion or anything like that. I feel like honestly, it sounds just as loud. And then when I was talking it on the handset, I haven't heard anyone complain they couldn't hear me. So I would say the battery case is pretty much compatible. As soon as you plug it in, it just starts charging just like the last one. I had one for my iPhone 6s, and I loved it. I think it's a little pricey at $130. I wish they would have kept that $100 price point. The fact that they were able to keep wireless charging is great. Now, if you have an iPhone 10 or 10s and you feel like your phone's battery isn't getting you through the day, this will give you a guaranteed all-day battery life, even if you're one of those people on your phone constantly. I had a long day. It was probably like an 18-hour day using it before I finally got to bed, and I had just depleted the battery case, maybe 5% into my phone by the time I was into my day. It'll really get you through, especially if you know you're going to be far away from a charger. This thing's awesome. It's completely integrated. I love the silicone case. It's probably one of my favorite non-functional cases is the Apple silicone case because they feel great. They give you a nice grip. Now, this battery case will make your phone quite a bit heavier. I mean, come on, it's a battery case, so that's to be expected. But it's not hard and awkward to hold. And the way they leave you room at the bottom, it does not interfere with gestures at all, even though there is a lip all the way around the phone. It offers pretty decent protection for an Apple case and feels great in the hand. The buttons are nice and clicky. That's super important to me. I know I've left reviews before. The Apple leather case still has the best clicky buttons, but the silicone cases are a close second. They really give you a good feel of the button. like I said, it will weigh your phone down a little bit, but the battery life it gives you is awesome. It's very easy to take on and off. It has that same bend the top back design, slide it in and out. It has the microfiber inside. I love this case. I wish it wasn't $130. I think the extra $30 kind of sucks. But the nice thing is, no matter which phone you have, it's all the same price. If you put this on a 10R, I think you go 3 days of battery life. I couldn't even imagine what the 10R does with this. Now, your 10S Max probably gives you an easy 2 days. I know I could go 2 days easy with my iPhone 10. So it gives you that nice extra bit of battery life. Wireless charging, love that it does that. Works just as good. You prop it on the charger when you go to bed. You wake up, you have a full phone, just like you did before. And then you know you're not going to run out of battery, which I know it's like, to me, that's the best because I hate carrying around a battery pack. I leave them places. I'm a forgetful person. So if you're like me and you're forgetful, a case is a nice option. It just works just as integrated as before. If you have them before, then I don't really have to sell you on this. If you didn't buy one and you feel like you need some extra battery, I think this is a nice option if you don't mind paying the premium. I mean, the only other case that's even close in quality to this is the Mophie, and that's $120. You are going to pay for the quality. There is a quality to this product. It is slick. It works good. I highly recommend this case. It's really going to be my go-to case for a while, I think. I thank you very much, Rob. Have a great day. Bye.
Justin, as always, thanks for your feedback. Sadly, they don't have this with the Folio case. I really would like to see Apple take their Folio case and their battery case and combine it so you have a battery Folio case. I'd pay $200 for that.
Hi, Rob. This is Max Camhigh. Today is December 21st. I wanted to weigh in on the AirPods issues that people are having and just say that I bought my AirPods last year and have noticed that since then the battery has been mostly okay and there's just slight degradation, but the biggest issue that I've had is noticing that with connection to your iPhone, I have a 7 Plus, or any other device, it's sort of inconsistent when you try to connect it. When they pop up on your list of devices to AirPlay to, it may say that you're connecting, you get the little wheel, but then they don't connect. Or if they do and you hear the beep, ultimately you might not actually have them connect all the way. They disconnect, they reconnect. I don't know if anyone else has had this issue, but please let me know. Thank you.
Max, thanks for that feedback. And I'm going to read a post here from the Google Plus community from Tosino, and he said, quote, "So my AirPods have been very disappointing lately. I've had them since launch day, so 2 years to be fair. They won't connect promptly when I put on my ear or disconnect during a phone call. I always have to try to force them to connect during phone calls or when listening to my podcast, and then sometimes they will connect to the watch instead of my phone. As if that wasn't annoying enough, just now I wanted to listen to a voicemail and I tapped on the audio button on the voicemail and it listed AirPods as an option, so I clicked this option. Guess what? It started playing in my AirPods seamlessly. So what am I moaning about? The AirPods were in the case in my pocket at the time, and I didn't realize this until I could hear some mumbling in my pocket. How weird is that? Or does anyone else find their AirPods showing up as an option to play music or any other audio when they are in the case, closed in your pocket, unquote. And to follow up on this, Tosin had this to say a few days later, quote, dropped by the Apple Store after chat with the staff on the Apple Support app and got both my AirPods replaced as it could easily be demonstrated I was getting awful performance from both. Apparently, consumer laws state I get a replacement, though they were out of warranty. The chap told me he couldn't replace the charging case as well as they are only allowed to change one thing at a time, but he changed both my AirPods because he could demonstrate both were defective and there was no point in asking me to go and come back at a later date. I suppose if she also changed my case, he might as well have given me a brand new set of AirPod case. Seems they were back in the game now, and that is his AirPods who he's talking about, unquote. So it sounds like everything is working well now for Tosin with the new AirPods. I personally am having issues with mind just going dead when I'm on a call for 30 to 35 minutes. Sometimes I get a warning with the low battery reminder. Sometimes they just die, both at the same time. Sometimes it's just one that goes out. No rhyme or reason. I need to make a Genius Bar appointment, that's for sure, for these. I just need to find the time.
With all the AirPods talk, I figure I would give a call and kind of give my downgrade to them. Some podcasts don't seem to play very well. You can't hear them, where other podcasts are up too loud, the way they save it to file, but I don't have that problem with my LG tones. Although I will say I do love my AirPods. The other thing that really has irritated me about them is not so much the battery life. It's that they used to be, and I put them in my ear, pull them out, put them in my ear. They used to be Johnny on the spot. Bam, they're connected, ready to go. It seems as though they keep wanting to disconnect or not even connect, or I'm fumbling around trying to get them to connect, putting them in and out of the pod. I don't know. I just hope that they fix some of these problems, because the number one thing is, hey, you want to swap ears? Okay, you take out the one, you put it in, you get ready to pull the other out, and it doesn't connect, or you leave it sit for a while and it doesn't connect. It just kind of annoys me. But I love them the way they sit in my ear and everything, but some podcasts are great. You have a wonderful one. Bye.
Shepard, thanks for the feedback. And I think going forward, what I'm going to have to do until I can get to the Apple Store is I'm just going to be using them one ear at a time. I'm not going to be using them 2 ears anymore. And I'm just going to have to monitor the battery life of them on my Apple Watch. And when I see it starts going down, I'll swap them over. But I have seen some connectivity issues where when I'm doing 1 ear at a time, sometimes it takes a couple minutes for the second one, when I pull it out of the case, to go in my ear for it to actually kick in. So then I'll have to wait till it kicks in, and then I'll take the original one out and put it back in the case, let it charge while I'm using the other one. I do a lot of calls during the week. Yeah, I'm on the phone most of the day. I mean, that's most of my day is on phone calls these days. At least that's what it's been. One of the reasons this show hasn't been out in a while. Work's very, very busy. But I look at my calendar all week, and I'm pretty much booked from 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. phone calls. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I get a half an hour open slot during the day. So I'm on them all day. So I'm going to go with 1 ear in, 1 ear out, I think, and we'll see how that works. There's an article in CNET titled, "This Trick Makes It Possible to Password Protect iOS Apps." And you will find it in the show notes, except, I added sorta to the end of the title. Really should have added sorta kinda, but not really practical for most at the end of the title. Here is how the article goes about this. You use screen time to lock down apps to only have 1 minute of use each day. Essentially, you pick the ones you want to always be allowed, and then the ones you don't pick are kind of sort of locked down. But this means you have to enter a passcode when you want to use it. Ideally, I want Apple to add Face ID required to launch an app each time. I don't have to use this workaround. And then you could set for whichever app you wanted to be unlocked with Face ID or Touch ID. Then if you have a work-related app, for example, and want to hand your phone to your kids, you don't have to worry about them uploading a picture of you in a bathing suit to the company's Slack channel. But for those that really do need to now lock down a company app at this moment, this time, and keep it away from the kids, this is a solution that sort of, kind of, maybe works. Link in the show notes for the full instructions.
Rob, Dave in Springfield, Illinois. I was just listening to your listeners' concern about receiving cross messages for iMessaging when sharing user IDs or Apple IDs. Back prior to iPhone 6, I don't remember the iOS off the top of my head. Whenever my wife and we share the same Apple ID and all that, would upgrade our phone or update our iOS to anything single dot or better, it would automatically, on both of our phones, have both of our numbers as receiving iMessages. And I would have to go in there and manually uncheck my number off her phone and her number off my phone. But since getting the iPhone 6, and also, again, now that we have the 10, I have not seen that issue once. So I hope that whatever updates Apple does in the future, they do not automatically start doing that yet again. That was most annoying. Thank you. I love your show. Have a great day.
Dave, thanks for the feedback. This next email was one that was sent to me on January 7th. Hi, Rob. My wife and I have an iPhone 6 and 6S running iOS 12.1.2 on Verizon. We have noticed that photos taken in 2018 are stamped with the date, and that starting in 2019, the photos have no date displayed, only today or the day of the week, i.e. Thursday. The same thing is evident in iMessages also. Any hints as to why or how to fix it? Regards, Sergeant Mac, Tidewater, Virginia. And the answer is, Apple does not show dates until something is 8 days old. So when looking in the first 7 days of the new year, only the dates from the previous year and earlier will show. So there you go. There was nothing to fix. It was just you happen to be looking on the wrong day at the wrong time of the year.
Hey, Rob. This is Scott up here on Capitol Hill. I'm calling regarding my upgrade to the iPhone XS Max 256. I got the phone. I like it. And I carry 2 iPhones. And I upgraded from the iPhone 7 Plus to the iPhone Max. My question is, my carrier is trying to get me to upgrade my 7 to an XR. And I love my 7. I just got the iPhone XS Max because, I don't know, maybe it was just something I needed to have or what have you. And so I'm using my iPhone 7 as my work phone, and I'm using the iPhone XS Max as my personal phone. Do you think I should upgrade my 7 to the XR since they're trying to basically give it to me for free, which in turn I trade them in my 7 for that phone, or should I stay with the 7? And I really like my 7. I like it tremendously. I mean, I look at it compared to the Max, and, you know, if I didn't already have the Max, I would probably have 2 7s. But just wanted to get your feedback on, should I stay with the 7 and the Max and wait for something else, or should I get rid of the 7 since they give me the XR for free and go with the XR and the Max? Can't wait to hear from you. Thanks for everything you do. Wow. Bye.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for the feedback question there. Or what should you do? Well, you said you love the 7. I would just say stick with the 7. The 7 has a home button. You love the home button, stick with that. You go to the iPhone XR, or what you're going to be doing then is giving up that home button. So you have to ask yourself, do you like the home button? You've got the XS Max. You know what it's like not to have the home button. That's going to be the big difference between the two. That and you're going to go to screen on the XR. But the 7 has that home button. Neither of them have a headphone jack, so you're going to be without the headphone jack regardless. My one son still, he has the 7 Plus, and he loves it, although he wanted the XS, so or the 10, but the other son got it. Irregardless, that said, it really comes down to you saying you love the 7, you already have the XS Max, so you know what the difference is between the two, and the biggest one there is the lack of the home button. Do you like the home button or not? If you really don't care about that and you really like Face ID, then switch. But to me, it sounds like you already gave us the answer when you said you really love your 7. So why switch just because they're offering it to you for free? That doesn't make any sense if you really love the 7.
Hey, Rob. It's Justin from Pennsylvania. I forgot last week I wanted to go on about the 64 gigabyte phone thing. I just say back in the day when they only had 16 gigs, it was ridiculous. 8 was ridiculous. I had a 4 gigabyte one, which I even filled up at the time, which at the time I thought 4 gigs was a lot for a phone. But I'm currently on a 64 gig iPhone 10, and I was worried about the space and stuff, but I'll be honest with you, I've had no problems. I'm usually about 15 to 20 gigs free, and if I do end up ever getting close, it's generally my podcast that I get ahead of me. And on my podcast app, I can just delete them and I can stream the podcast episodes without actually deleting the episode that I haven't watched yet. That's really the big hog I have. My photos all seem to be on my iCloud library. You know, when you have a kid, you got to have that going. So I would say 64 gigs for my wife and I have been plenty enough gigabytes for us. I know my question I have for you is, Rob, what do you use all of your space with? And is there a benefit to why you keep that much data on your phone? Just a question. Thank you very much, Rob. Have a great day. Bye.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for the voicemail, as always. Number one is photos and film or video. So photos and video, I have all my photos and video, the entire collection on my iPhone. I have it also on my laptop, and then I have it backed up. Because you have a terabyte in Google Drive, which you get with Google Fiber. So I've got my photos in 3 different places. One, and all the videos I've shot in 3 places: on my phone, on my laptop, and up on Google Drive. So that's one area that uses quite a bit. Also, on my phone, I have a couple different television series that I've purchased over the years, a few different movies. Those take up a lot of space. And I have lots and lots of apps, and then podcasts and recordings of podcasts and backup for files. And there's some other things in there that I've got on the audio recording side. Some random other videos that I've worked on over the years. And did I mention apps? Lots and lots of apps. Too many apps. Right now, I'm a little bit halfway on my storage on my iPhone XS Max. Actually, I think I'm a little over, so it's about 270 gig of used space on my iPhone XS Max right now. So the 250 gig one would not have worked. But I have a lot of things I could have cleaned out. Definitely have a lot of podcasts in there I could have cleaned out. I've got all of Dan Carlin's podcasts. Those take up some space. A bunch of Joe Rogan ones in there. I definitely could delete some of those out. So I could definitely have cleared up space. I could make it work for 256 gig version. I could definitely make it work, but I'd have to work to make it work. And I don't have to work to make it work for 512. So I'm not wasting time deleting things and going through. And that's the way I look at it there. It's worth my time not to have to spend my time, or it's worth my money not to have to spend my time making my phone work to the storage level that I have. What is funny?
Nothing, I guess.
What is funny?
Sporks, narwhals, dogs upside down.
What is funny?
I'm just easily amused.
What is funny?
Ha ha ha. I like laugh tracks.
Today's show was again brought to you by Eero, which is by far the fastest and best Wi-Fi I've ever tested. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus, please visit eero.com/TII and at checkout, enter promo code TII. Before we go today, I want to remind you to send in your feedback to the show, 206-666-6364. That's 206-Moondog. Or record your feedback and email it to the show at todayinios@gmail.com. Feedback can be a question or comment for something someone said on this episode, or it can be a question or rant you have about something else, an app or product review, good or bad. As long as it is iOS related, it is welcomed. I'm always looking for new artwork to feature that you created on an iOS device. Just put some TII branding on it and send it in. And of course, we're always looking for more music created on an iOS device to play on the show. It's your show, and your feedback is greatly desired. Also, don't forget to check out our moderated Google Plus community by going to todayinios.com/community. Quick reminder, if you're an app developer or an iBook author, just email me if you want your app or iBook featured in promo giveaway segment for free. We just need the 5 promo codes or more to give away. Simply email me at todayinios@gmail.com. Please include a 60-second or less audio review of your app or iBook indicating you are the dev or the author. Also, when you send in the promo codes, please make sure to let me know when they expire. Finally, check out the TII app, which is free to you. Search for TII in the iTunes App Store. It's the best way to consume this show and to get push notifications each time a new episode of TII is released, which you'll never know is going to be next. It is fully voiceover friendly, of course. Please go right now and download the TII app or get the update. You already have it. Until the next time, I'm your host, Rob, reminding you to bone different. This show is hosted on Libsyn.com and part of the Libsyn Media Network. If you are looking for podcast hosting, go to Libsyn.com, that's Libsyn.com, for hosting for your podcast and creation of your own smartphone app. The Today in iOS podcast can be found everywhere you listen to podcasts. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Overcast, Stitcher, and everywhere else you listen to audio.